our cast for the 4-0 to Hero Day 2, and we are going to be starting off with the winner bracket semi-finals here. I'm Scotty, your host for today, and I have the privilege and the honour to be joined by not only my partner in a dynamic duo, Mr. Eirik Holdal, but again it is our privilege to be joined by a world champion, an actual expert, someone who might actually know what they're talking about when it comes to Trackmania. We have Kappa, Mr. Krompolc himself. Finally, we have you joining us on the casting couch. How are you guys doing?
Hello, hello. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be joining you today for a few matches, which we are allowed to cast. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what the players can really show us and who is going to be the best one of the weekend. I'm excited.
Sure, and how did you find day one, Eirik?
Yeah, day one was a little bit, what to say, what you expected, but also what you didn't expect. You have, of course, the three big favorites in Pac, Carl Jr. and Tween, still being the three big favorites, but you saw like a contender for many people in the grand final and potential at the podium spot. Dutchy not doing too well, and today he forfeited due to some health. The biggest upset in a negative way, and also for me, I had predicted Spam to be number 4. It seems like he needs to be really good today compared to what he was yesterday to make my prediction correct. But like you said, it's finally nice to have someone that knows what they are talking about and actually plays Trackmania here with a world champion.
Exactly. I mean, going by our history of side bets, we're clearly not the right people to be going forward and giving the best output on who's going to be coming through. But I mean, we're talking about surprises from day one, but coming through into the winner bracket semi-finals we do have coming up, of course, we will have one coming up on the hour at 2 PM. That will be Pac, that will be Dexter, Novis and OmnipotZ. And in the second side of that bracket, we do also have Tween. We have Carl, of course, original Carl. We also have Carl Jr. and we have Danik B. But, I mean, the first kind of question I'd point at our resident expert, our world champion, because I'm so happy that he's joined us, of course. Are any of these names that are in these winner bracket semi-finals a surprise to you at all?
Looking at the bracket, I'm not surprised at all by any of the names. I'm happy to see people like Dexter in there because I haven't seen him play a big tournament recently, but he's obviously a very, very strong player, and I think he even has the shot to make it to the winner bracket final there from his match. Speaking of surprises, maybe the biggest surprise, honestly, is Carl, the old one, French one. I know he's still a very good player, especially when it comes to consistency, but seems like consistency was enough to get that far where he is right now. But I do not think he will have too many chances in the second winner brackets. Names like Tween, Carl Jr. or Danik B, which are, in my opinion, one level faster players. And he will have a really hard time getting a big amount of points, you know.
Yeah, I can certainly see why you would say that. I mean, me and Eirik were talking about Carl before, and it really says a lot for his kind of his mental game, so to speak, that even while he's took a long time out of Trackmania, he's not played as many big events, to see him coming back in arguably the most stacked tech event we've had in a very long time, at least in my memory, and be performing this strongly, it really says testament to how he's still able to prepare as well as most of the other players nowadays. So very good job there to him. But we do also have some loser bracket matches which we will be covering later on. Some of the names which are still remaining in the loser brackets, I mean, we won't go through all of them, but we've got names like, we've got Cappuccino, of course, we've got Nevermind, we've got a particularly stacked match. We've got Barboss, Flyer, Sky, Zad, people like that. We've actually got Symbio's finding himself pretty early down in the loser bracket, and also Ager having some issues early on. And we do also have some names that were on a lot of people's lips going into this event, all matched up in one matchup in the loser bracket, which will be on the same time as we're doing the upper bracket. So of course check out any other of your casters to check out that. But we do have the likes of Zykos Beat and Magorian all the way down there. So, I mean, it does again speak volumes to the depth of this tournament, and to bring you into this, Eirik, we're seeing a lot of really, really strong names down here. Again, in the kind of same way I asked Kappa about it, are you surprised that such big names and such well-hyped names and well-regarded names are struggling in this tournament?
Well, I'm not surprised that we see some names outside the top 8, because there are more than 8 good players in this tournament, so obviously someone needs to be knocked down. Like I said, I predicted Spam to do well. He did well at LES, even with small amount of training. The last really big tech tournament, he plays 6 at the Czech Mini World Championship. Maybe Maddox, I expected also to do higher. He should have been in the grand final at LES, but seems like the pressure got to him in the more important rounds. And maybe that's also a factor here, that once he gets to these decisive rounds, that is, finalist modes, is make it or break it. Maybe Maddox is not the strongest mentally player. Yo-Yo also had a really bad quarterfinal yesterday. I expected more from him there. Besides that, I think it's the best players that you could more or less have predicted beforehand. Like I mentioned in the intro, Dutchy is also a name I predicted to be here, but seems like he's struggling with his health.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate for Dutchy. Of course, I'm more curious to see actually now who's taken his place, but I don't seem to have found that just yet, but perhaps I'll get that information later on. But at least moving into those, so we will have a loser bracket round at 2 PM, we'll have a loser bracket round at 3 PM. So those that are awaiting at 3 PM are the ones who just fell in the last winner bracket matchups. So that's the likes of one match you have Zack and Ratchet awaiting, you have in another Spam and Mathix. You have Miquatro and Soldier waiting in another one, and Complex and Yo-Yo waiting in the last one. So again, very storied names, old names, new names. We are seeing packing out the lineups to this throughout the bracket, of course, top and bottom. But something I was eager to kind of pick your brains about, Kappa, going into this. So, of course, this tournament was meant to be essentially a replacement for Gamers Assembly 2020, which was unfortunately cancelled due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. But with this, we've seen, of course, the tournament being held online. So we're seeing players being able to play from the comfort of their home. But otherwise, also some changes to the fact that now the players do not have to play with cars on, which from time we have seen has been quite a big factor. But is there any differences which, or what differences were you most looking forward to seeing from how the tournament's played online against how it's being played, or how it would have been played, sorry, on a LAN event?
Well, speaking of the names that I still see alive in the brackets, it didn't change the way it would have looked. Maybe there are players that are not familiar with playing on different PCs or playing with cars on. I'm speaking of names like Novis, probably, who I believe doesn't have a LAN experience yet, same as Dexter. But other than that, I think some players may struggle finding the motivation to play online. I'm speaking from my own experience, because after playing so many LAN events where the pressure is even higher than when you're alone in your room, with your own PC, and you don't even see the other cars. It's not the same, and I think some of the top experienced players may really have hard time finding the super big motivation boost, that you get naturally when you're on a LAN event. But maybe that's just my issue. But on the other hand, it can really benefit players like Novis, Dexter, or these guys who are used to play online, and if best, then without seeing the other cars. So it can really be a negative, play a negative role for some of the better players, but it can, on the other hand, also help a little bit the players that would have these struggles with playing on a LAN event. Yeah, indeed.
For sure. And one other thing which I thought has been a great benefit to having this event online in comparison to having it at a setting like a Gamers Assembly is you're having players who aren't sponsored. You're having players who are from a great distance away who typically wouldn't be able to make it to LAN events. I mean, we see, of course, we would have missed out on the likes of a Carl Jr., for example. We would have missed out on perhaps some players like Dexter. We would have missed out on a great many players, as of course travelling all the way to France isn't as easy for some kind of other players. So I think it's quite a correct thing to say that the tournament has become much more stacked as a result of it being much more open to people. People are able to, I mean, we're seeing people from South America playing. I mean, I barely even knew some of those players existed before they signed up for this tournament. But yeah, it's lovely to see. But I mean, talking about how stacked this tournament was there when you were seeing the kind of sign-ups getting filled out, as unfortunately I understand you were not able to participate in the tournament itself. For some who might not have seen your announcement, would you mind giving us a bit of more information for those in the chat as to what stopped you from participating in the tournament?
Well, it was unfortunately because of health issues, having problems with my right wrist, which is obviously the hand I use the most when playing with keyboard. So, you know, I'm expecting myself to play a lot in May when the new game releases, and also when hopefully at least the online version of the Zerator Cup takes place. So I really decided to rest it for now, so I can be rested for what comes next, you know, because I really want to put a lot of time into the new game. And yeah, but on the other hand, you really have to think about the priorities. You know, like I'm still a young person, and I don't want to destroy my hand at this early age.
Yeah,
because you know, having a right hand that doesn't work properly is not a very useful thing to in your life. So you also have to think like that a bit. So I was just worried that playing from zero to hero would maybe have real lifetime consequences, you know.
For sure, as I understand, at least through meeting you at LAN events and things like that, and hearing from some of the other top players, you, at least if I remember correctly, are one of the players who tends to put the most amount of hours into these sort of events, along with names like Tween and such. Would you say that's an accurate assessment?
I mean, I obviously with the name I've already achieved, you know, for myself. I have to put some standards. I can't just play an event nowadays and be completely untrained or
the Kappa standard.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. I just can't play untrained, because then I have a status currently of being the world champion, and people expect me to do well, you know, and it's also that I don't want to disrespect my status, you know.
That's perfectly understandable, and it's good to see that while still holding a status like that you are still more than willing to compete in events like this. I mean, of course, with the only thing that's holding you back being health issues, that's certainly, again, more than understandable. But we've also seen talks of a lot of other big names in Trackmania who have kind of shied away from events like this, at least in more recent years, like signing up for this, coming into this event. A lot of people were talking about names which also, I would feel, come under the same kind of scrutiny, like your names like, say, a Karyan, a Race Hands, you know, even people who might be more familiar with today's standard of competitions, players like Massa and such, which unfortunately, again, are not able to compete with us today. But would you say that's a hard thing to deal with, having at the golden standard that is being a world champion, or just in general being a very well-renowned player?
I don't think it's a negative, but the thing is that I've got used to my standard, and I really dislike losing when I'm not 100% prepared, because that's the worst thing, you know, when you go to an event that people really value, you know, that the results matter, and you know that you're not playing on your best level, that you can do much better, but you're just untrained. So you don't wanna make people think that you're not as you used to, because it's just not true. So for me, I either play tournaments when I'm 100% prepared, or I just don't play them nowadays. And you know, I'm a very dedicated guy when it comes to practice. When I really want to practice, then I want to give it all I can to show what's really inside of me. And I wouldn't be able to do that, you know, for 0 to hero. So I would either completely destroy my hand, or I would lose because I wouldn't be practiced. So I just couldn't participate, if that's understandable.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable, and I'm sure especially some of the older players might sympathise with that quite a lot, having played so many years of Trackmania. But it's good to see that you still withhold that kind of same, you know, championship winning mentality, that if you are going to show up, you're going to show up with all you've got, rather than just coming to the table half prepared, so to speak, which unfortunately we do see some you know, interest waning going over time. But as long as that means that we're going to get quality maybe a bit over quantity, then I'm sure everyone will be happy with that, of course. But I mean, bringing ourselves back to today again, we do have 2 WinnerBracket semi-finals coming up, and our first one is actually going to be starting relatively soon. Now I'm going to put you a bit on the spot here. Me and Eirik have a little bit of a thing, if you might be familiar, side betting. Now there's one word to describe our side bets, well maybe two: either useless or bullshit, because we are horrific at them. But we have Pac, Dexter, Novis and OmnipotZ in front of us. So I mean, give us your side bet. Who's going to be top 2 from this WinnerBracket semi-final, do you think?
My top 1 is Pac, that's for sure. And the second place battle is very open, very even. That would be really a roulette, you know, playing a roulette. But I hope OmnipotZ makes it through. But it will be super close. I think it can end up in a 3 finalist situation. Like Pac will win quite convincingly, in my opinion, and the other 3 players will battle it through 3 finalists.
Yeah, but if you had to put a name on it, who would you say would be second then?
OmnipotZ.
OmnipotZ. So we've got Pac and OmnipotZ, but what about, I suppose, the father of the side bets, Mr. Holdal himself? Give us your top 2.
Well, I was thinking this was turning into like a Trackmania podcast with Kappa here, leaving me out with the whole preview here, but
don't be jealous.
I'm always jealous of you. You know me. You're my idol. I'm always jealous of you. But I will agree with Pac being the front runner for taking the first place here. But I will also make the case that Novis is, in my eyes, a little bit better than Dexter and OmnipotZ at the moment, doing good times and struggle a little bit against Carl Jr. yesterday. But if he does like he did in the 3 first matches, he should be faster than both Dexter and OmnipotZ. So Pac and Novis, and I guess Pac will be first and Novis second.
I understand you've also been spending all night, instead of sleeping, you've been compiling quite the repertoire of stats there. Is there anyone in particular of at least a battle for second that the numbers would be favouring perhaps going into this match?
Well, if you just look at the average points gathered on each map, then Novis will actually be the favorite. He has an average of 7.8 points total, while Pac has 7.5, and then OmnipotZ 7.2 and Dexter has 6.9. So Novis has so far been the best when it looks just at the points, and he's also the best on this weird flex map. So maybe that's something to look after.
And at least going into this event is with, again, I understand I took a quick look at your stat spreadsheet there. Is there any specific maps we should be looking at for players underperforming or players overperforming perhaps?
Yeah, 100%. Like Dexter has a 4.9 on this Simpon Blur map, so that's really bad. Looking at the overall points, that's essentially getting a 3rd place every time, and if you just get that on that map, the others will advance. And yeah, Dexter as well, once again on this weird flex map. So Dexter is having some strong maps, but he's also having some really weak maps, and I don't think you can have a weak map when you play against 3 players like this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the standard just gets infinitely higher the further you get into the tournament, of course. I mean, Dexter is known as being one of the top names in online Trackmania at the moment, along with Novis being very well regarded over the past year or two. And a lot of people were kind of questioning going into this, how would these players that are known primarily for their online play, players that don't have as much LAN event experience, how they're kind of comparing against some of your offline titans, going up against people like Pac, going up against, you know, the likes of Tween and so on. So, I mean, going through the first day, what kind of impression did you get of that kind of storyline of the, shall we say, the onliners versus the offliners, just to simplify it?
Well, I think I'm sort of an advocate for making the case that the online players are much stronger than the online players, but maybe yesterday I was a little bit surprised of how good maybe Novis and Dexter really are when they are put up against players like you see at every offline event, called Junior, Pac, etc., etc. And maybe it's the fact that you brought up earlier that now they can play with cars off, they can play in their online or home environment. So I'm a little bit surprised, but in the end, I still think it's going to be the three big ones on the podium places.
For sure. I mean, at least in this match, I can certainly imagine Kazan would be a little bit of a pain, especially with OmnipotZ's ludicrous alien car skin. So I'd imagine that would be quite interesting to play against. But at least we should be actually counting down within the next minute and a half or the next 2 minutes or so into the match itself. But while we just get ready to go, we do again have 5 maps which will be part of your cycle for this today. As you see on screen, we will see Rise Up by MD Point. We have Krompolc by OmnipotZ himself, so we got a bit of a home map there. Siphon Blur by Clement. Weird Flex by Thompson, and Cascade by both Wormy and Kiesla. So moving into this map, of course, again, we do have a bit of a home map for OmnipotZ, but of course these maps have been out for over a month now, so the players will all be very prepared on them, so that advantage may not hit home. But I understand at least Pac has set one of the fastest times in these maps out of the entire tournament, and maybe perhaps OmnipotZ as well, if I'm correct.
Well, the fact that you bring up that you have an advantage if you make the map, that's just factually wrong looking at this example of OmnipotZ on this Krompolc map, because this is OmnipotZ's worst map, just looking at the average.
Wow.
Just a 6.1, and the rest he has like 7.9 and 8.4. So that's really surprising to me as well, because you hear a lot of arguments that if you build a map, you have an advantage, but in this case, it's really not true. At least it wasn't true yesterday. Let's see if he can turn it around today, sorry. But yeah, this is Pac's best map, and if Pac is going to win this tournament and this match here, this is the map we should look after and looking to see him gaining the points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly going to be interested as well to see what kind of map order we've got coming up. It's still going to be the 100 points limit, which we will be having in front of us. So what that means is no matter how tight the match is, as long as people tend to finish each round, we are going to only see 4 maps. So the map which is going to be 5th will not be played as part of when we're fighting to 100 points. So that's also, I think, very interesting, because that can almost completely change the perspective of the match, depending on, for example, if Dexter's worst map then is not included in the final 4 maps which will actually be played. So I mean, some advantages can be taken straight away before even the first wheels hit the ground, but we're just about getting ready to go. The players are just about to get ready on track, and we are just about to start our winner bracket semi-final. Again, this will get yourself 1 step closer to the grand final, 1 step closer to the prize money, but we are just about to get underway, and we are just about to start, as I said, the winner bracket semi-final. Let's check out the map order. So we've got Siphon Blur coming up first of all, the one the players were just warming up on. We have Rise Up by MD Point second, Cascade by Wormy and Kiesla, Weird Flex, and Krompolc right at the ending. So straight away, Kappa, I was just going to ask in terms of the map order there. We were talking about how OmnipotZ actually, his worst map was his own, but now in this map order he's not going to play it. So do you think the map order itself has had quite a big effect, or do you not see that having a big impact going into this match?
I honestly really don't know. I don't believe that that playing your own map gives you any advantage. I used to build tracks back in the days, and it was a disadvantage actually, because sometimes you don't put that many hours into that track. After you build it, you feel like you know it, you know every corner. But sometimes when you build a track, you don't think of the very fastest lines, you know. When you try your own track, you have in your head an idea of how it should be played, but that's not always the fastest line, so it can also be a disadvantage. But I don't know, I think OmnipotZ will be good on all of the maps. He knew the maps before everyone else, you know. He already had for that preview video, so let's see.
Yeah, exactly.
But Scotty, you haven't done a side bet.
Pac and Dexter then.
Or what?
Pac and Dexter. We'll go with Pac and Dexter just because you guys did left them out. But starting off round number 1, we're going to start off with OmnipotZ himself. And now, starting off on this map, we do see an interesting technique coming out from the players initially with the going inside the CP triangle there, and you can see already against Dexter and OmnipotZ off to a great start there. But actually the first mistakes and first 2 mistakes being claimed early on in the first 20 seconds of this, and that is Novis and Dexter already down. We have Pac and OmnipotZ, who shared actually a grand final back in 2018 and Gamers Assembly, if I'm correct. But moving into the middle section of their track, we do see Pac is in the lead and looking to extend it a little bit with quite a tight line, but OmnipotZ will have a slight bit more speed. I have a shallow angle coming into here, but both keep their gear. And now moving across the grass, OmnipotZ not with the best angle, has to release a little bit, and we see Pac extending a little bit of a lead now. He has about 2/10 going into this ending, that should be fine. Novis and Dexter heading up the rest of the pack, but the first round will go to the Brit himself with a 102.25. And that's a good time to start us off here. I would say times we'd be expecting here for winning rounds will be your low 102s. But, I mean, with this, Kappa, do you expect your players like Pac to be pulling out all of the stops already in these rounds? Or do you expect they might still be reserving some for the later matches?
Well, if he keeps playing like this, like setting 0.2s on Siphon, I don't think they will steal a lot of points from him. But as I say that, yeah, someone just crashed. It was Dexter. But I wanna state that I'll remind you that Novis did 0.87 on this track in the warm-up. So that is a really strong time, like 1/10 behind the world record. So he definitely has the pace, but will he prove it? Let's see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the players that do get sick times often make use of that inside line in the CP, as it does gain you a slight bit extra time, but it is extremely risky. So you might see players changing up their strategy going into these rounds. But we do also have a carbon copy of round number 1, except now it is OmnipotZ in the lead going through this section. The alien car blasting through, as he does actually get a really nice inside line here, and now he's the one with the advantage going through the final turns. But Pac is a little bit closer this time. He's going to go more inside, and he does have the speed. He's going to steal the round from OmnipotZ right at the death with a 0.178, and what an end there by Pac. And as we were talking about there, he is turning up the heat bit by bit, but we once again see Dexter and Novis having more issues here. I mean, coming into this, it's got to be a lot of pressure coming up against players like this, but we do have round 3 starting off straight away, and the player which did go for the inside line straight at the start there, Dexter, did fail it in the round previous, so just showing again how risky it can be. But as you see there, OmnipotZ and Dexter with a slight advantage at the start here. Novis a little bit wide early on, but we do have a full pack with us all at the start for once. Let's have a look and see Pac going for a really outside line here. You saw he had to adjust his drift a little bit more, going through that long right-hander, and does find himself at a bit of a disadvantage. Now, this is the first time Dexter and Novis have been able to compete this far into the round. Half of the map has passed, and we do still have OmnipotZ in the lead. He's looked very strong in the start of this map so far, but not a lot of points to show for it. Does lose some speed going over that straight section, but all players keep the gear with the exception of Dexter, and now Novis is the one fighting for the top positions. That's a big mistake by Pac. He will still be able to finish, however, and that will only be 3 points for the World Champion from 2016, but Novis is going to be the one taking this round here, and OmnipotZ gets caught on the edge, giving me a heart attack, but the alien car managed to fly into second place, and another 6 points by OmnipotZ. I can imagine this would probably be pretty frustrating, having set so many good times, Eirik, but falling behind all the way in second place only by less than a 10th of a second. I mean, you got to get annoyed at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about getting first place versus getting second place. It's 4 points, so even if you lose by 1/10 or 100, you still lose 4 points on the point score, and in the end, it's the points that matters.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, coming into here, we do see more than halfway through our first map here, we saw a little bit of a blunder there by Pac. We do see Pac all the way in the points lead by 5. You're up in 23 at the top. We have 18 for OmnipotZ at the moment, 17 Novis and 11 Dexter. Dexter definitely struggling in the start of this match so far, but again, the competition has stepped up. He does have time to get back into this. Novis is teleporting all over. He's trying to be a UFO like OmnipotZ perhaps, but he is in the lead, and that's what matters here. By about a 10th of a second here, he is on a fantastic time here at the moment. Will we see a first 101 of the match perhaps? OmnipotZ going for an inside line, trying to keep as much speed as possible going through here, and the gap has came down to less than a 10th. The players are on fantastic times here at the moment, but both mess up their entry to there, giving Pac a window in, but he's not going to be able to take it. But the times get even faster. Do you think it's just a case of the players getting more warmed into the match, Kappa, that they're starting to run faster and faster times each run? Because I don't know how much faster they can go.
Oh, definitely not much faster anymore, but looking at Dexter, he really needs to step it up, because he's playing consistently, doing some point force, but it's just not enough. The other players are so fast. They started right away, and this is going to be a hell of a match.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Dexter having 14 points while doing a regular kind of low mid 102, it must definitely be hard to deal with, but again, when the competition steps up, you need to step up to the plate with it. He isn't that far behind. Again, this is not the elimination stage. Top 2 will go forward to the winner bracket final. Bottom 2 will only go into the loser bracket. They will not be eliminated, so not to worry any fans of Dexter at the moment. He is not yet in danger, and he is in first in this match. He wants to get himself off the foot of the scoreboard here. OmnipotZ loses a gear in. Pac loses all the time when he crashes into the wall there, but Novis and Dexter wanting to take some good points this round. Novis had a really wide line going through there, and now Dexter trying to take advantage, but he looks just a little bit too far behind here. Novis looks like he's going to take another 10 points and another fantastic time here. And I mean, one thing I must bring up here, OmnipotZ I think has ran a 0.2 every single round, and he's not won one. How must that feel when you're performing so well and you're having so many issues with actually getting points here?
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I honestly didn't expect them to start the match so quickly. Like, all of them are driving out of their mind. Maybe I'm a bit disappointed from Pac, because he was making a lot of mistakes, even though you just have to risk it when you're playing such fast players.
We'll now move on to Rise Up by MD Point. Eirik, does the stat show us anything we should specifically watch out for in this map for any of these players?
Well, the point to bring up here is that now Dexter has done or are done with his worst map, and he's coming up to his best map now. So this is a really important map for Dexter to get back into this match and potentially get a lead, so he has some points over the others when he head into maybe maps the others are more favorable.
For sure. I mean, coming from your worst map, of course, it's a bit of a change whether you want to see that get out of the way as early as possible, or if you would just want to get some momentum and kind of go into it. But I suppose we can kind of dig our expert's brain on this. When you have a map that you're not so comfortable with in a tournament like this, do you want to get it out of the way as soon as possible, or do you want to play it a little bit later on in the cycle?
That's a good question. Well, if best you want to avoid having a bad map, so you really want to spend as much time as you need in the practice. You know, some maps are easier to use, some are harder. But yeah, I just try to avoid having weak maps, and if I do have to play them, since they probably will have to, because the map pack consists only of 5 maps, it's always best to play them in the beginning of the match, so you can really play the maps you're compatible with when it's decided, you know.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like good sense here. But we are moving on to Rise Up, which is going to be Dexter's best map, so we're going to keep an eye on here. So starting off a little bit poorly, though. He's already got that kind of no slide on the uphill there, and will fall further and further back. Times we'll be expecting to see here very low 104s and getting into the high 103s. World record, as far as I'm aware, here is a 0.4 by tween. But coming through the start here, well, come through the midsection actually, going into this, you dive down into the right-hander here. Pac and Novis are the ones in the lead here, but you can gain a lot of speed through this section. OmnipotZ a bit too close to the inside to take as much as he can from this turn. Pac is holding on here, but Novis is trying to go for the attack, goes for an outside ending there to gain as much speed as possible, and he is reeling in Pac bit by bit. Pac loses so much speed going over the grass section, too much steering there, and he is dropping down to second place here, but Novis actually connects with the pole there. Bit of a simple mistake, but Pac actually crashes into the finish as well, and that was a 10 points thrown away from Novis and a 10 points thrown away by Pac. And OmnipotZ, what must be said, is one of the lower quality of rounds he's driven, despite it being what is initially a third place. That's his first 10 points, and as some people are saying there, that might be a little bit of karma from his first round performance, do you think? But like I said, moving in here, we do see the group moving quite closer together here in the points. We do see Dexter on 23 here at the bottom, and then you see between the top three, you have a 5 points gap here. Now Dexter off to a little bit of a better start here. Hopefully we'll see what the German has in store and see what he is capable here after the first half, and we're going to have everyone within 13 thousandths of a second straight away. But we see Pac dropping down here again. Oh wait, sorry, that was Dexter dropping down, pardon me, but Pac actually goes a lot further out there, and you can see he gains so much more speed through this straight. He overtakes both OmnipotZ and and Novis, pardon me. OmnipotZ maybe struggling to keep a little bit of pace there, and struggles to keep his grip as he flies off the track. But he does keep himself in third place here. It's once again a Novis and Pac battle going into the final turn here. Novis has more speed, but you don't think he's going to make the ending, but he will actually. And 2 great times there up at the top. That is a 0.8 and a 0.9 being driven. And once again, OmnipotZ with a great time himself finds himself in third place. But Eirik, I mean, he's driving really well. Do you think he just needs to kind of risk it more, or do you think he just needs to keep doing what he's doing?
Well, I think that's a question you can ask Kappa. How much do you actually check out the others when you are offline or HUD off?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think the players are aware of the positions during the round. They probably turn on the HUD or they turn on the ghosts. I don't know. But I don't think the problem is that OmnipotZ doesn't know where the players are. He just plays what he's capable of, and it wasn't enough like last round. I think if he continues playing this consistently, it should pay off. And if it does not, well, what can you do? Well, the field is really stacked, so he needs to keep trying, you know.
For sure, but look at this round here, 110 from top to bottom here, and all of them are in the 103 pace here. No mistakes so far. Pac's so close to colliding with that wall there, but actually gets a bump from the little hole there, and he will be the first to fall here. And Novis stretching his legs and streaking out into first place here, and he should be able to hold on to it with such a gap like this. 310s, but looks as if he got a bit of slowdown in the ending, but a 103.7 being driven. That might even be the fastest match time driven in this map so far. Dexter and OmnipotZ with 104 zeros, having to settle for second and third there, but Novis is really performing extremely well here, and I think upsetting a lot of people's predictions here, once again showing how our side bets are useless, Eirik. But 45 points for Pac, and at this stage he would be eliminated, and that would be a hell of an opponent to go up against in the lower bracket. But the penultimate round here, and it must be said, Dexter having some issues in what was initially thought his best map here, and that once again looks like a mistake being made by Pac, and a lot of cracks showing in the Brit here. He's not looking as good as some people were perhaps predicting, but again, the field is extremely strong, and it is really shaping up to be a cracker of a match here. But Novis once again finds himself in the lead here, and OmnipotZ now showing some cracks in his consistency as he makes a mistake. And now Dexter with a prime position to get 10 points and get himself that bit closer to the top 2 at the very least. It's again as the magic positions here, but he has the end boss here of this match so far, which is Novis to go up against, and Novis is once again on a fantastic time here. Once again a 103, perhaps looking good going into the final turn here. Bit of a shallow approach, and he does get the bubble a little bit. He should just actually make it, but he fails, and that's going to be a lot of points lost for Novis as he will not be able to finish. And that's 10 points down the drain, but Dexter will take them all up, and he'll be very happy for it. But I mean, that just means our match gets closer and closer. But with a section like that, Kappa, we've seen a lot of players having trouble with that. When you kind of fail a section like that a lot, does it kind of play into your head a little bit? You know, kind of give you a little bit of fear going into a section like that?
It can really play a role, especially with Novis. He probably isn't used to play the cup mode that much, so he's not that experienced. He should have known that he could have saved it. You know, he had the advantage over the others. He did not, and now it can trigger him. You know, it's always in the back of your head. So he just needs to recover very fast. If best, well, with a 10-pointer this round, but Pac is in the lead. So if Novis doesn't get a 10-pointer now, or makes an additional mistake, it can really start triggering him.
Yeah, for sure. And we have seen some players that have had some issues with staying focused during a match, you know, getting a bit too frustrated maybe. But, I mean, it must be said here, Novis is on his best time pace here at the moment, and Pac is so many card lengths ahead of him here. Pac, once again, like you say, what you can do, I can do better. And look at that, a 103.731. And Pac really stepping it up at the end of this map, despite having made a lot of mistakes earlier on. And I believe that's two best match times on this map being set in the space of 3 rounds pretty much, and Pac now bringing himself back into safety. But while we take a little bit of a breather going through Cascade, we kind of are already past the halfway point for 3 players leading into finalists. I mean, Kappa, has anything kind of surprised you so far about the match?
I'm honestly a bit surprised from Novis' performance so far. He's super fast, and he's also very consistent. There was just this one mistake that caused him a very easy 10-pointer there. That was a really unfortunate or unnecessary risk he took. But I think, well, looking at the next round after that, he didn't look shaky at all. So I think he will just continue doing that. And I'm actually curious to see how he does during the finalist mode. So.
Sure.
Well, Pac is still my #1 pick to take this match, but I'm honestly a bit surprised that Novis is playing this well. But, you know, we are in the middle of the match, so things may really change.
And moving into Cascade here, with Wormy and Kiesla being the mappers, we have seen this is one of the maps which has caused players, shall we say, the most kind of trouble with its very kind of difficult exit. Well, sorry, difficult jump going through into its final section here. We were talking about that kind of in the last round there, about how failing a section so many times can lead to you having a bit of fear going into this. But Eirik, is there anyone we should be watching out for specifically on Cascade out of these people?
Just looking at average amount of points gained on this map, the Novis is the highest with 8.4, and actually Pac is the lowest with 6.7, so that is maybe something to look after.
That's a very interesting stat for Pac to, again, have a bad map through this, but again, he is, of course, well prepared on all of these maps, so it may have just been your kind of luck of the draw, but it may also be something we need to keep a look at going into these final sections. Maybe see if we can pick apart as to what's happening in these rounds, but OmnipotZ here is the one off to the best start so far. There's a few bits of line choice you can use through a lot of these different sections, especially in these jumps down to the left. You see OmnipotZ opting for a much wider line there, which will gain him a lot of speed here and keep him just ahead of Pac, with Dexter still going toe-to-toe with the veteran Frenchman himself. But Pac gets a lot of speed through that section, and he will actually overtake into first place. He is going on max attack here at the moment, with Novis actually trailing in third here at the moment. Pac opts to go for a really inside line here, nearly kisses the outside wall there, but players will want to keep the gear on this uphill. OmnipotZ goes really wide for that, but unsettled on the downhill. It will give Novis a route back in, but Pac actually makes a mistake going into the ending. OmnipotZ bounces off the hole. He will manage to take first place there. Novis will rescue second, but that's just what we're talking about. The ending can give a lot of player, I suppose, almost PTSD from making mistakes in it late on, and Pac fails and throws away some points there. That allows OmnipotZ to get 1 point closer, and actually only within 1 point of Pac here, to get the top 2, which is the all-important position. But we do have finalist mode potentially coming on this map for some of these players. We do have Novis in the lead here on 73. He's not that far away from the other players, but he's also not that far away from finalists. Dexter also not out of touch here, but we need to keep an eye on him, see how he's performing on this map. Is Cascade going to be a route back into the relevance in this match for Dexter here, as he is 17 points behind safety here at the moment. However, he is off to a smashing start here, looking to make up for lost ground as Dexter. He made a mistake around this section previously. Oh, so tight towards the inside there. I'm sure that shaved a few licks of paint off of his car there. Is still keeping the lead here, but it is getting much closer. Pac now was at the back in that CP, and he is 1.5 tenths behind. And look how close they are going through here. It only gets closer coming into the ending. Who's going to risk it most? Dexter falls all the way down to last place here, and everyone's risking it through the ending. People are upside down, people are crashing, people are underground, and Pac is last. Dexter actually manages to get third somehow, despite going over the line upside down. But the main men in that round were Novis in first and OmnipotZ in second, and we're getting down into the mid 106s. But I mean, with a map like this with such a risky finish, Kappa, would you expect to be seeing the players getting still times close to what their PBs would be, or would you be expecting them to kind of safe it a little bit more because it's so risky in the ending?
I think this particular ending is really very hard to play safe. You know, you just have to go for it and hit the correct spot, but it's like pixel precise, you know. So if you don't make it, you lose so many seconds. So you can't really save it. Well, there's a safe route, but that is like a half second slower, so you can't afford going there. You know, you have to go for it.
For sure. But actually we saw Pac, who was in the lead there for quite a big margin there, and does fall down now, and that's going to open up a window of opportunity here for Dexter as he shoots up into first place here. Now he's the one with a little bit of a gap here, just over a tenth in front of OmnipotZ here. Oh, and he makes a mistake going into the ending. That's pretty much everyone crashed from the lead now going into this first part. And Novis nearly overtakes OmnipotZ at the end, but that's a 10 points going home from OmnipotZ. And now with Pac getting third place, that means the gap stretches between second and third now. And we're seeing Pac struggling on this map as his kind of stats dictated there. And again, I mean, perhaps it's as we were talking about, maybe just a little bit of PTSD from this map. It can play into your head when you've made too many mistakes on the map. You start losing confidence, and maybe that's what we're seeing. But we're definitely seeing Dexter also struggling more and more to keep up with the top points here, as he now goes down to 25 points behind OmnipotZ here. And Novis, if he wins this round, he will get the slap in the face, which is the 99 points here up at the top. OmnipotZ needs to win the next two if he's going to get finalists, but both are in range, within 2 rounds range. Pac certainly has some work to do, but he has 2 rounds of this map to recover from what has been a bit of a nightmare for him so far. He finds himself in third, but now to fourth here as he makes a bit of a blunder going through that section. Dexter once again kissing the wall, so close, but he actually avoids the little bit slow down there. Pac taking an alternate route through the CP, but we don't need to worry about that. But an awkward landing from the Brit means he'll fall down even further. But we've seen pretty much everyone make a mistake going through this ending. Novis has to slow down a bit and adjust his line. But the real story here is OmnipotZ and Dexter going side by side into the ending. But Dexter makes it clean. OmnipotZ as well, and that's a 106.43. Very strong times up at the top. And OmnipotZ, no matter how many strong times he gets, it always seems to be there's someone in front of him, but I'm sure he'll not complain, as that is ground gained to both Novis and Pac.
One thing I've noticed, one thing I have noticed, that OmnipotZ only takes 10 pointers in rounds where a lot of people crash, so he always gets the 10 pointer with a weak time, but then he does a good time, but someone is faster in those. So, but that's the main difference between OmnipotZ and Dexter. I mean, this Dexter's 10 pointer was very unusual to see, you know, but I think it was probably the first one. But OmnipotZ is able to use the others' mistakes in his favor, you know. Dexter is unable to do so far.
Sure, and that's what you were talking about earlier, about just him playing his own game and staying very consistent. He's making use of all the mistakes the other players are making, but now he is showing that he can definitely turn on the heat and pick up the pace when the time is necessary, as he's nearly 2/10 ahead of his opponent coming through here, almost at the point where he can afford to save these final few turns, but not yet, as he has some beasts flying behind him. But Novis is going to shorten out that field just a little bit here, with Dexter and Pac the only ones chasing down here. But OmnipotZ should be easy to go into this ending, and he is. Another 10 points here. And once again, a point 4 being driven by OmnipotZ. Pac having to settle for second, but we've seen Novis falling apart a little bit here in the next few rounds. I mean, you were talking earlier, Kappa, about you were interested to see him getting closer to finalist. I mean, would you say that maybe him getting closer to finalist is starting to play on his mind a little bit, and that might be why we're seeing more mistakes? Or would you maybe put that down to something else?
It could really be the reason for that, because as I've already said, I don't think Novis has much experience with the cup mode. He's used to play those team matches, you know, when it's 4v4 or 5v5, and that really is different because you can just play round by round the same game, and you don't need to care a lot about how the others are performing. You just focus on yourself. But this is something completely different. You have to be aware of the surroundings. You have to be aware of the mistakes from the others, and you have to do quick decisions, and the correct one, obviously. So I'm really excited to see how Novis handles it, and if he handles it, you know. I think Pac is not out of it yet. Let's see about Dexter with that 69 pointer, but it will be really interesting. Now I'm pretty sure OmnipotZ will get through, but I'm still worried that Pac will take over the second place or the first place instead of Novis.
For sure. And I mean, it certainly wasn't what anyone expected, having Pac down in the lower bracket spots here. But I mean, coming into Weird Flex, we'll be expecting times here a mid and high 103, I would say. Perhaps even getting into the 0.4s perhaps for some sick times here. But Eirik, just while we're quick getting started here, anyone we should watch out for on Weird Flex?
Well, you have like 3 players with really good stats here. Novis with 8.5, OmnipotZ with 8.4, and Pac with 8 points on average. But the thing to remember here, Pac has only driven this map 5 times, and 3 of them he won, and those 3 times are still faster than Novis's fastest time on this map. So I think Pac is a player to look after, and he needs a good map now.
Yeah, for sure, exactly that. He does need a good map here, but he needs to also be able to recover into this match mentally here. He is at a little bit of disadvantage earlier. Novis teleporting a little bit here, but does find himself still in third place. Does Pac? Dexter's already made a mistake. It doesn't look like he'll be able to finish here. OmnipotZ is up in the lead here at the moment, with Novis tight on his tail at the moment, but a little bit of a tricky jump coming through here and going into a long right-hander here, getting ourselves that little bit closer to the ending. Pac is trying to risk it, but he won't have as much exit speed here. Novis shoots forward as all of them are side by side coming into this ending. Pac has so much speed, but Novis a little bit more, but Pac goes so tight in the ending and just takes the 10 points there. But what a round and what an ending there by Pac. Oh, need to breathe a little bit.
Crazy round.
Yeah, for sure.
But Dexter didn't finish, so he's dropping even down further.
Yeah.
Double finalist.
Yeah, double finalist. We have Novis and OmnipotZ going in. Despite Pac having won that round, he needs to now win another. If he does not win this round, he will not have finalist mode himself, but Novis gets an early bump there, and that unfortunately changes up his line. He will now have to come back here. Finds himself a 10th and a half behind his pace. Dexter is down already, so it's all going to be on Pac to try and deny OmnipotZ a spot in the winner bracket final here. But as again, Novis makes another mistake there. We've spoken about how both Pac and OmnipotZ have been very good performers on this map, but now is the time you really need to step it up here. It's going to be essentially a 1v1 for the remaining sections here. Can both keep their heads screwed on tight, with Pac with a slight advantage here, but OmnipotZ is going for it. They both have almost equal speed coming through this jump. Pac goes for a risk there. He tries to land a little bit earlier by using the slope, but he's going to fall behind as a result of misjudging it, and now OmnipotZ has a tiny bit of space to breathe here going through the ending. He will have a lot of speed, but he does survive. Will he be able to get through the final jump? No problem. He will, and he takes it with a 103.5. What a time there, and what what a performance by this match in OmnipotZ. No one thought he would be first, and a lot of people thought he wouldn't have been top 2, but credit to him that he managed to stay so consistent throughout the match, and what a performance by the Frenchman.
Absolutely deserved. You asked me what we should do. Well, he kept playing like what he was capable of, and it really paid off. It did pay off, and it's a deserved win. And now I'm really excited to see what comes up, you know. Novis versus Pac, who's gonna take it?
And Novis makes a mistake there. You can saw how tight he was going to that inside line there. And again, perhaps the pressure of knowing you're on finalist mode, knowing you have the chance to knock down to the loser bracket a world champion, one of the most highly regarded names in Trackmania at the moment, of course, Pac from Britain. But Dexter here is not wanting to have his party spoiled just yet either. Novis perhaps out of the finalist or the winning battle here just yet. Dexter opts to go for a completely different line here. Pac will once again have more speed, but he will also jump higher, so negates a little bit of that advantage just there. Dexter trying to hold on for 10 points here, but Pac is on max attack here. He's going to come down into the final corner. Pac's really wide here, but does manage to keep it on track. And he will secure the 10 points and the best result going into his first finalist attempt. And coming on to Weird Flex here, we might see the match get ended straight away. But, I mean, do you think Dexter can still even do anything at this point, Kappa?
Unfortunately, I do not think so. I think the match will be decided in this one round.
Yeah, I mean, we do have either Pac or Novis getting sent down to the loser bracket. Pretty much a name on everyone's lips for the top 4, even top 3. A lot of people were thinking one of these two guys would actually win the tournament. So all the pressure comes down onto here, and we're talking about Novis being slightly inexperienced. Is that going to be playing into his mind, or is he going to thrive under the pressure? But at the moment, he is up at the top here. Dexter still not wanting to be knocked off of this match just yet. However, he loses a little bit of time. Novis is the one with the advantage. A bit of an awkward line going through here. And now Pac recovers with some good speed. They're inside each other going through this checkpoint. 200 separating them, but Novis will have the inside line. He does have the advantage. Pac messes up just a tiny bit, but he will still be able to recover. Who's going to risk it more going through this ending? Pac takes so much speed. It's coming into the final corner once again. Pac with the inside line. And he does have more speed here. Is Novis going to be able to recover? He does not, and Pac takes it just at the ending there. And Novis is sent down to your loser bracket. But what a performance and what a recovery there from Pac after spending a little bit too much time there in the bottom 2. But Novis, despite his best efforts there, will now find himself in the loser bracket. But, I mean, what a match, Kappa.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and if you remember my prediction, I said Pac and OmnipotZ would go through, so...
We finally found someone who knows what they're talking about.